In the land of the midnight sun, something strange is going on.
I've come all the way up here to northern Alaska to the Arctic.
For 150,000 years, polar bears and grizzly bears have ruled separate empires. Now the two largest land carnivores on the planet are on a collision course.
And nobody's backing down.
In the ultimate turf war, I take a shot in the dark.
That is about as big as a polar bear gets.
If a grizzly can go polar,
A charging grizzly on ice. Go swimming like the polar bears do, buddy.
these titans will face off, and only one will rule the Arctic.
Grizzly versus polar bear, and I've got front row seats. This is ridiculous. Well, we're playing like Ring Around the Ambulance right now, because look right here. I'm surrounded by polar bears. They're really starting to rip and tear on the carcass. It looks like they're in a spaghetti buffet. Yeah, around here you have to watch 360 degrees. You never know when the next batch are coming, huh?
Well, and there's a number of little small islands and barrier spits that totally surround us. Could be coming in from anywhere. And these are your bad guys right here.
I just never thought I'd ever be this close to a polar bear, let alone two family groups of polar bears. It's just incredible. Really kind of a dream come true. So we're out filming around the whale carcass, and 2-year-olds are like mischievous just by nature. So one of them decided to come over and check out the film crew, and so getting in quickly is not really an option. Go first. Quicker, quicker.
Didn't move either.
Sorry, dude. I'm out of here. I about shut the polar bear's nose in the door, so it was pretty close. I'll tell you, if I wouldn't have got in the ambulance sooner, I would have gotten an ambulance somehow. You know what I mean? Right now, we're stuck in the ambulance. It's getting dark, and there's polar bears all around us. So we're just gonna hang tight, see if brown bear shows up. So we're rock solid in here, right, Art?
Yeah.
It is cold, windy, and dark out here. But right now is the time that a polar bear and a grizzly bear could come together. So I'm just gonna stick it out here and hope to see something very rare. Unbelievable.
One thing is for sure, a grizzly in polar bear country is like me, outnumbered and outsized by the Goliaths of the north. Grizzlies are out of their element here, facing Arctic conditions that could stop them in their tracks. Or so we think. Right down the road from my home in Montana is the perfect place to shed some light on the matter. To do a little controlled experiment. Well, at least semi-controlled.
What do you think, bud? Slippery, huh? You're doing pretty good. Better than I thought you'd do. You're sliding around a lot. Now, if you're a polar bear, you could walk on the ice a lot better.
Ice is a curiosity for a grizzly, but a polar bear's life depends on it. The sea ice forms a critical platform to hunt, mate, and travel. For Brutus, this may as well be the moon.
Let's play some salmon puck hockey here. You gotta get your agility down on the ice. Get it! Get it! Come on. Come on, bud. Go! Good boy!
Polar bears have thousands of tiny bumps called papillae on their paws. They work like sandpaper to help them grip the ice. In short bursts, they can attain speeds up to 35 miles per hour. That's 10 miles per hour faster than Usain Bolt, the fastest human alive.
It's not fair because grizzly bears don't have sandpaper like a polar bear.
A grizzly's feet lack fur, making the foot pads a major source of heat loss. The polar bear has the clear advantage here, but overall, Brutus manages better than I expect.
There you go. Good job. Now you're really getting the hang of it. A charging grizzly on ice. See what you got. See if you got some moves like a polar bear does on the ice. Oh, you're slow. Oh, you got it. Good job. Where are you going? That's what they eat the puck. Me and you, one-on-one. You gonna hibernate?
Until recently, the answer was always yes. But with the Arctic rapidly warming, grizzlies aren't forced into hibernation as early. Instead, they're ending up in some unfamiliar places, like here, Kaktovik, Alaska. Population 300. People, that is. Around this time of year, a different type of resident arrives. This year, I'm joining them.
I've come all the way up here to northern Alaska to the Arctic, the land of the polar bear. Right off the bat, some good sign right here. Tracks, fresh tracks. The ice out in the Arctic Ocean is broken up. They've come to land. But the other reason is the people of Kaktovik harvest 3 whales a year. And after they butcher the whales, they bring them over here to the end of this peninsula and leave the bones there. And the polar bears come and scavenge on the leftovers. I know they're out here somewhere. I see 2 polar bears moving across this island out here. Now these 2 are moving actually towards the peninsula. And the locals have told me that at night, just as the sun's going down, they'll come off this barrier island and go over and feed on the whale bones. And I'm definitely gonna go over there and be there when they come.
I wait for them here, at what's affectionately known as the bone pile. It's a feast for the senses.
For centuries, the people of this area have been harvesting whales, and the bears have been taking advantage of it. Right here is an old whale vertebrae, leftover of a past harvest. But this year's harvest is just right over there. Polar bears from all over the Beaufort Sea come to this whale site. And this year, scientists have strung up a single strand of barbed wire around it. And what they're doing is trying to catch hair samples, identify each individual through its DNA, and try to get a grasp of who is coming to the site.
Carla, research assistant for the local Inupiat tribe, collects the hair samples. If grizzly bears, often called brown bears in this part of the world, spend their time here, she would know. Hey, Carla.
Hello.
To Carla, it's not a polar bear. It's Nanook.
So Nanook is the native word?
Nanook.
Nanook?
Yep, Nanook.
And what about the brown bear?
Akhlak.
Aklak?
Akhlak.
Aklak.
Yeah.
I like those better.
Yeah. So, what they're looking for is these cuticles at the end. And then so that looks like a really good one to get. And sometimes they're really hard to get out of there.
So in the past, the usual way that the DNA was collected was flying out in helicopters, darting polar bears from the air, taking a biopsy. But what happens then is the polar bears get stressed from all that action. What's great about the barbed wire is that they're coming in to eat, stepping over it, no big deal, and they're still getting the same results, capturing the DNA. So this is definitely a better way. But what's really cool is that they're finding out there's some other visitors coming to the carcass, brown bears.
Probably my whole childhood life, I never saw a brown bear on the island until like maybe 5-6 years ago.
Wow.
Everyone was really shocked to see it on the island.
This change is more than just about a few unusual new visitors. It reflects a huge turning point. Ever since the polar bear separated from its grizzly bear ancestors 150,000 years ago, their historical ranges have been separated by a major barrier: polar ice. But with ice melting to record lows in the 21st century, the polar bear is losing its grip, and the lines are suddenly blurring.
I just spotted what I came here for. Right out there in the water, swimming this way, 3 polar bears. A couple of them are playing with each other. Probably a sow and 2 big cubs. But as they get closer, they're picking their head up, looking around, seeing who is at the bone pile. Right now, it's just me. This is awesome. 3 polar bears right there, coming this way. They can probably smell me, definitely can smell the whale. And to be this close to polar bears is absolutely amazing. They're coming in, but they're definitely not real comfortable. Now, the way these bears are acting, there's a good chance that they haven't been here before. They're also very, very clean. What that means is there's a good chance they've been out on the ice and are just coming in.
This year alone, the Arctic has lost an area of ice the size of Texas and California combined. Polar bears must swim hundreds of miles of open water from the distant ice edge to this shore. It's no wonder they arrive hungry.
So they really settled in, really starting to rip and tear on the carcass, and they're getting what they came for. This big bear's moving in, little family group on the carcass, but it's coming this way. This is a different bear. It's a big, big bear. He's coming in with a swagger, and he is going to probably eat whatever he wants here and move the little guys off. But one thing that's apparent is that the bears are coming in when it's almost dark, and they probably more of them that come in when it's dark. So from here on out, I'm going to plan accordingly.
It's far too dangerous to be out on foot here after dark, with an animal honed to stalk, ambush, and kill its prey with near perfect efficiency. Fortunately, there's another way to have a close encounter with polar bears. Here at Minnesota's Como Zoo, a state-of-the-art polar bear breeding facility, I'm introduced to Buzz and Neil to get hands-on in a way that isn't possible in the wild.
So what do we have in here?
Well, we're going to give them some enrichment to use some of the foraging skills that the bears have, also just some natural behaviors.
So we're just going to stuff these full of fish?
Yep, let's do it.
Okay.
This is capelin and herring, and they get several pounds of it a day. So we're going to stuff those into the Coke bottles and let them use that for their foraging.
All right, let's put these out and see what happens. Time for me to meet these bears.
Absolutely, let's go.
All right.
On their way outside, the bears pass through a caged area known as the knuckle. Here, the zookeepers can safely examine them. First up is Neil.
It's just so cool to be this close to them. When you're this close to them, they're just so big.
You don't really get an appreciation for their size until you're right next to them.
Paw. Good. Hold it. Good. Hold.
One
Hold there.
Good.
Their paws are massive. And
Yeah.
those claws, they're completely different than a grizzly bear's.
Yeah, they have to have the really big paws to be able to spread out on the ice and be able to, stand on the thin ice. The claws are just really good for traction in the snow and ice.
Neil. Rise.
Whoa! He is so tall. I mean, Brutus is only about this tall. He dwarfs his cousin Brutus.
A typical polar bear stands around 10 feet tall, whereas the average grizzly bear stands under 7 feet tall. With their exam out of the way, Neil and Buzz are ready to take this party outside. and they put on a show that no grizzly bear could match.
I mean, it was amazing. I mean, you could just see right there when he went in the water, his body is completely designed for the water. So that behavior, I mean, that's very typical of a polar bear, that
Yep.
pouncing behavior.
Yep, the ice-breaking behaviors.
Even though they're very closely related to brown bears, they're just completely different.
With skills like these, a polar bear can take on any challenger. But the showdown is on hold. Right now, the only action here is the bird life. Polar bears arrive every evening. Where they hide during the day, and whether grizzlies hide there too, is a question worth investigating.
Well, today, I want to go to the place where the polar bears are hanging out when they're not at the bone pile. But it is foggy, and it's out there where they're hanging out. So hop on a boat with a native guide, navigate through the fog, and by the time I see him, we're gonna have to be really, really close. So it could be a pretty exciting day. Hey, Robert.
Okay, ready to go see bears?
Yeah, we're gonna be close when we see him out of field with this fog.
Well, I think so. It's not too good of visibility, so they'll probably be within 100 yards, or we can't see them. They'll be too far to see.
So there's a lot of bears in the area?
I heard about 49 bears in the area.
Wow.
So,
It's a lot of polar bears.
yeah, got to look behind once in a while.
All right, well, let's go out there.
Okay.
Hey, Robert,
Yo.
what's going on here?
Oh, the bear walked around on the raft last night. Walked on my chair.
Broke your chair?
Got his paws on the motor. He
Hopefully you didn't play with the motor enough that it won't start.
hasn't been running a while. It might be a little cold.
Want me to give her a shot?
I need my exercise.
Okay. Oh, it might take a while.
So like it wants to. Yeah, go ahead.
Out of the way.
Sorry for that.
No, it's all right. I'm glad you got it started. What would we have done if we'd been out here and I couldn't get it started?
We paddled really fast if the bear was after us.
Out of the fog, a barrier island appears, home of the sleeping giants.
There's one right there.
Sometimes they're just laying there. You don't see them until they move.
Yeah, that one's just lounging. Probably got a belly full of whale. Well, the fog has lifted out these barrier islands, and as I drift along here, I can see polar bears everywhere, out here taking their daytime naps.
I'd like to take a closer look to see if a grizzly bear is among them, but it's a risky move.
Even though it looks completely flat, just on the other side of that sand is a bear, and I can't see him. So for me to get out and explore and walk around here, I really got to be on my toes.
This brief window in the fog is my only chance, so I seize the moment.
Got my protection here.
Yeah, you better still be careful. They could be behind the bank. I'll stick with the boat, and I got my bear protection.
They're different.
Oh, well, this is a little more final.
The best protection I have out here is my own awareness.
This over here is a female with one of her cubs. She's just kind of kicked back right on the shores of the Arctic Ocean and nursing one of their cubs right now. It's really beautiful. She's just holding the little guy just like a baby, kind of closing her eyes, holding her baby tight, making the baby feel secure. That is as cute as it gets.
Then I see two young bears heading my direction. Luckily, they're less interested in me than in sparring with one another. But I'm not about to let my guard down.
When you're out here on the barrier islands, you're kind of fair game. These bears make a living by hunting and killing things.
And here we go. This is not the welcoming committee. Just the opposite. And it's headed my way.
Well, I'm not the only one walking on the shore here.
This bear could close the gap between us in seconds.
Right down there, headed my direction, is a big polar bear. So it's time to get back to the boat. Let's go.
Without the engine, we're a pair of sitting ducks.
So I'm back on the safety of the boat. A bear was coming towards us. And, you know, there's not much out here. He's curious. Well, you're an animal, cruise around the beach, and that's what polar bears eat. So, a little safer out here on the boat, but they like to swim. Just out here in the water, got a sow and 2 cubs. You know, I'm used to seeing bears on the land. To be out here in a boat and watch bears playing out in the water, this is very unique. Polar bears love the water, and it just makes me think of Brutus. He was out there like that, he would be so freaked out.
We see no sign of grizzlies out here, but these polar bears give me an idea. So I signed Brutus up for a swimming lesson here on a frozen alpine lake in Montana. Open water is in short supply. No matter, we're making our own.
Now it's time to see how Brutus stacks up to his wild Arctic cousins. Come on, buddy, your very own Arctic Ocean. Right there. You gonna get in and take a little dip? It's like the polar bears do. What do you think? Pretty cold. Feel something like the polar bears do, buddy. Good boy. Your very own Arctic Ocean, buddy. Get in there, bud. Good. There you go. Pretty cold in there, especially if you don't have blubber like a polar bear.
The blubber of a polar bear is up to 5 inches thick. It's like a custom wetsuit built for warmth and buoyancy. Grizzly bears lack the thicker, better insulating blubber. They work harder to stay afloat. Polar bears also have partially webbed forepaws that work like oars for swimming. The best the grizzly can manage is a crude dog paddle.
I know you like the hot tub. This is kind of the opposite of that. You getting out already, buddy? Polar bears stay in that stuff for up to 200 miles.
A polar bear's long, oily guard hairs shed water nearly instantly. Once out of the water, they simply roll themselves dry. Try as he might, Brutus's fur retains water. It'll freeze right on his back. In the coldest, wettest conditions, the grizzly is simply out of its league, much like another mammal I know.
Now we know polar bears are amazing in this frigid water, and Brutus did okay. But now we're gonna show you how inefficient humans are.
All right.
You ready for this?
Yep.
Humans are not very efficient. They lose heat very rapidly. You look at his body now, there's a lot of heat there. If he stays in there for too long, hypothermia will set in. Don't get hypothermia.
I won't. Maybe I will. Cold.
He's crazy.
Do my little Brutus check.
Here he goes. Woo! How's that feel?
It's cold. Very cold.
Now, right now, he's in a very dangerous situation because he doesn't have blubber and hair to retain that heat. Heat's escaping at a rapid rate. If he loses 3 degrees body heat, he'll actually start to go into hypothermia. He'll make some bad decisions, even worse than the one he just made. And then if he's out there for too long, his core will start to shut down, all of his organs will start to shut down, and as you can see right now, his body's starting to shake. All the heat is going to his core, and he's shaking to try to make his body get warmer. Now, a polar bear out there can swim miles in this water, but a body like this can't take it. You ready to get out of there?
I'm out.
All right.
To the car.
finally, the action heats up at the bone pile. As usual, Carla is right in the middle of it.
Finding anything cool?
I found your grizzly bear hair.
Ah. Yeah. A big sample.
Yeah.
This is it, the first hard evidence. But I need more than hair samples to get a clear picture of the situation.
So we've got grizzlies and polar bears sharing this carcass. Something I've always wanted to capture on film is the two of them together. So this looks like about as good of a place as any.
Oh, I think so.
This is exactly what I came here for. Brown bear and polar bear entangled as one. That is awesome.
Grizzlies would only ever arrive under the cover of darkness, so I roll out a new strategy to get them on film.
So what I'm gonna do is set up my infrared night and day cameras. So when the grizzlies come here, I'll be able to capture them on this camera right here.
With 4 cameras up, I think I have just about every angle covered.
So what I want to do is come back here at night, and it's going to be difficult to see, but the locals told me about a guy that can help me, so I'm going to go meet him right now.
In the Arctic, solutions seem to turn up where you least expect them. But this, well, this might be more than I bargained for.
Howdy. You must be Art.
Yes.
I've been down there at the bone pile, been trying to get brown bears and polar bears, but they tell me you've got a way to really light that place up so I can really watch and film.
We can light up the whole thing. We've got a bank of military batteries in back and inverters and 120 amp alternator and.
It looks like the ultimate production vehicle.
Yeah, it is. It's like a bear can for your equipment and, crew.
Let's head down the bone pile and wait for the bears.
Okay.
All right,
Cool.
cool.
Yep.
The new rig is already paying off, with 2 family groups of polar bears headed for the bone pile at exactly the same time.
It's a whole jam of bears right there. To see 6 bears together like that in any place, any kind of bear, that's just amazing. So it's 2 family groups. Do you think that the family groups are related in any way?
I'd say that it's likely that the 2 sows are related. Could have been siblings, and each one has gone off and has their own family, but they come back and they recognize each other, and the bonds are still there. They remember. Because this is a tight population of bears.
I watched these 2 2-year-olds earlier, and they are pretty rowdy. They're full of energy and curiosity. This guy right here, I'm naming this one Casey. He's the one who's caused me problems all day long. Dude, there's like a bunch of whale over here, and you're messing my camera up. There you go. See, at least he listens.
He's lost interest. Now he's got to go find another one.
The real reason this bear needs to get back to eating whale is simple. Polar bears all over the Beaufort Sea are stranded on land, far from their seal hunting grounds, until the sea ice reforms. Lately, the sea ice takes longer and longer to return. If grizzlies now compete with polar bears for the same food sources, you have to wonder if there's enough to go around. And who gets first dibs?
Now, where's that brown bear?
I'm beginning to think these bears don't want me to find out.
Yep, there he is.
Especially when I keep ending up back where I started. The guardians of the bone pile are a persistent bunch.
What are you guys doing? You guys got to get out of here. You guys got to get out of here. You're being bad. Bad bears.
A little bit of action going on out there. I'm gonna go out and see what's going on.
Thanks to Art's lights, the bone pile comes alive, right at the peak of polar bear activity.
It's dark. And I know there's polar bears all around, so I gotta keep an eye out. Fighting going on over there. Two young spring cubs. Look at the size of that boar right there. That is about as big as a polar bear gets right there. What I'm hoping to see is a polar bear interacting with a grizzly bear, and this is a place that it can happen. Okay, here we go. Careful, heads up. Watch her back here. And notice it's back and forth here at this. Oh, there's Mama. She's bigger. I think she touches this door, it might cave in.
Yeah, they're in front now. I know you.
Oh. Who's the air horn?
The last time you did this, we couldn't start.
Even the ambulance can't withstand the full brunt of a polar bear's aggression. We have no choice but to call it a night. I can't help but wonder what I miss. Hopefully, my remote cameras will be my eyes.
Well, looks like the polar bears had a good time with my cameras last night. So I'm gonna pop the cards out, see what I got. Well, I'm getting rotten whale carcass juice mixed with some gelatinous whale goo and some polar bear slobber. Well, it'd be a miracle if I got anything. Let's see, got something. Polar bear, polar bear, polar bear, polar bear, lots of polar bears. This is good news. The camera's working. It's capturing things. A lot more bears here, definitely. Wait a minute. I can't tell what that is. Definitely a bear, but it looks like there's a hump right there. Check that out. Grizzly. Walking right where another polar bear was walking.
The easiest way to identify a polar bear versus a grizzly bear is, of course, color. But at night, you don't have that option. This grizzly bear has a pronounced hump between its shoulders, whereas the polar bear has none. This comparison only scratches the surface. We have to get a little closer to see if a grizzly can really beat a polar bear at its own game.
I'm out here on this mountain lake to give Brutus the ultimate sea ice challenge. Now, polar bears can smell a seal from 20 miles away. But for this challenge, I'm gonna bury some salmon and see if he can use his nose to be the ultimate polar bear.
I bury the salmon in the ice because I'm curious if Brutus will be able to smell down through it, the way a polar bear would sniff out a seal. Several hours later, the scent should be almost undetectable.
Do you smell that out there, buddy? I know bears are supposed to be hibernating this time of year, but polar bears love this stuff.
Brutus's digging style doesn't resemble any polar bears I've ever seen.
Are you trying to turn all white just like a polar bear? Huh? Is that what you're trying to do? It's cold out here. What'd you find? Good job, buddy. You found the salmon. But now you just want to play in it.
Brutus must have smelled the salmon all along.
More out here. Can you find it? Good job. I think you're ready to hunt seals. You're all camouflaged just like a polar bear, and you're laying down just like they do when they hunt. Let's go do it. Come on.
Brutus could clearly smell a seal, but could he capture one? On the Beaufort sea ice, polar bears rely on seals for 98% of their annual diet.
Now it's time for Brutus's next polar bear challenge. Now, a polar bear in the Arctic will actually sniff out seal layers. And this represents the minimum amount of ice they have to punch through in seconds. What a polar bear does is he pounces down on the ice, breaks through, and tries to grab the seal. So today, I'm setting up a little martial arts action for Brutus. And we're gonna see if he can be Brutus Lee and punch through this ice. Come on, Rudy. Up here. Now, get this. This is the challenge. You have to put your feet up on here, not your butt. This isn't a coffee table, and you gotta break it. Yes, good. Now you gotta get your other paws up on it, not your butt. You gotta put your front paws, not your butt. It's not how a polar bear does it, Brutus. Come here.
Brutus is having a tough time getting the idea.
Brutus. Brutus, you can't dig the seal out. You have to pounce through the ice. That's way too easy for a grizzly bear. You gotta do it the hard way like a polar bear. Through this ice. No digging.
I'll have to demonstrate.
Pouncing, right here. Polar bears get their paws up like this, and they pounce through the ice because there's seals underneath of it. So you gotta get up here, like this, and push on it. Like this. You wanna try it? Brutus Lee. Come on, you gotta be Brutus. Good, good. Break it, get it.
He'll need to
Come on,
do
this is
more
the
than
polar bear
scratch
pouncing
it
challenge.
if he's going to measure up to a polar bear.
Good, now pounce it. Come on, Birdie. Break it, good. Good boy. Good boy, good boy. Boy, that's some tough ice if it can stand your big butt.
Chances are the seal would have swum away by now. But Brutus deserves one more shot.
Good boy. Good boy. Push it. Good. Good. Oh, good job, buddy. Good.
Brutus Lee found the only weak spot. All 900 pounds of him took care of the rest. Tonight is my last chance to film history in the making. To see a grizzly and a polar bear face off at the bone pile. I'm determined to stick it out, no matter how many bad-tempered bears we have to dodge.
Another curious bear. Back in the ambulance we go. The other thing is you gotta watch over there. Uh-oh.
Camera 2 down.
He's coming. Get ready.
The Guardians are out in force. Once again, it's a waiting game. Soon, darkness is upon us. Bears drift in from all directions.
Do you see him again?
Yeah, he just walked right in front of us.
Do you think it's worth trying to light it up?
Yeah, good as time as any.
Oh, man. Like, we have a grizzly bear literally 15 feet in front of the ambulance going around this way.
It's now or never.
Got a small grizzly moving in, kind of looming outside the bone pile. The bone pile is covered with polar bears right now. So it's just picking up the scraps. And there's 2 polar bears kind of running them off the carcass. The bad news is they ran them right into me. See right here, look at this. Grizzly versus polar bear, and I've got front row seats. This is ridiculous. The grizzly's charging after the polar bears, trying to back them off. Grizzly's posturing up, hoofing, trying to assert itself. Unbelievable.
The moment I've been waiting for. But getting distracted out here could be fatal.
Heads up. And, they're back. You guys are mischievous. This is these 2-year-olds, they're just mischievous. Always up to no good.
When I was hanging out, looked around the corner and one was coming, so I had to bail in here really quick. So we're just hanging out. These little guys are up to no good. Move on that door there. Back out in the darkness. I hear him, but I don't see him.
The 2-year-olds finally move on. Just in time.
Grizzly just walked up.
Okay. Grizzly's out there. Let's go.
There's no guidebook, no diary, no field journal that can tell you about grizzly polar bear interaction, because it's being written right before my eyes.
So the grizzly's making its move. It's actually gonna go into the bone pile and join the polar bears right here in front of me. Look at that. A grizzly hanging out with polar bear right there. This is ridiculous, and this is what I came here for. Grizzlies, polar bears interact. Right now, they're not getting along. This is the ultimate standoff right here. Grizzly versus polar bear. And nobody's backing down. Unbelievable.
The situation is still in flux. It's about to get even more intense.
Okay, things are getting very interesting right now. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 polar bears and 2 grizzly bears on the whale carcass. This is 2 species. They're not supposed to be together.
The status quo will never be the same.
This big grizzly moved in, sitting on top of the whale carcass, ripping up big chunks. Now there's a big difference going on here. This grizzly's got to eat a lot because it's gonna hibernate. These polar bears have to eat a lot because they're headed out into the darkness for the rest of the winter, hunting seals on the pack ice. It looks like the grizzly might be leaving, but he's not leaving empty-handed. He's grabbed a big chunk of muktuk and he's headed off into the darkness. There's a big polar bear in pursuit.
After 150,000 years, it comes down to this. Who owns this beach? This island? And who goes home hungry? Now, I know.
Come down here on my last day, and look, a female with this year's cubs. The future of the polar bear.
Soon the ocean will freeze, and this family will head onto the ice for their first difficult winter.
And this right here is an example of what it's gonna take to keep these polar bears around. Coexistence. And this has been happening here for thousands of years, right here on the shores of the Arctic Ocean.
Now I understand why the word Arctic means place of the bear. But the place defined by this bear may one day harbor none.
Well, the families had their fill. Now they're just gonna jump back in the ocean and head north.
The fate of the polar bear hangs in the balance. Especially now that the competition has arrived. But Brutus has proven his species can step up.
Good boy! Good boy!
Pretty cold in there.
Now you're really getting the hang of it.
Testing his footing on slippery ice. His insulation in frigid water.
There you go.
Push it. Good.
And his strength against the sea ice. He's gone polar. And for these grizzlies, there's no turning back. Because in a world that looks more and more like grizzly country, we now know who has the upper hand.